Hey everyone and welcome back. In today's video, we will be discussing about the Splunk configuration precedence in greater detail. Now, in the earlier video, I hope you remember we already discussed about how putting a field value within the local directory, within the system local, plays to be much more higher precedence when compared to the value which is in the default directory. Now, one important part that I would like to show specifically related to the practical that we did, where we changed the port from port 8000 to 8080. Now in case you are doing it in Dockers and then you are trying to achieve something like localhost colon 8080, you will see that it will not really work out. Now the reason why it will not work out is because the Docker port mapping is still on port 8000. So if I log out from Docker and if you do a Docker ps, you will see here that the port of my Windows machine of 8000 is mapped to the 8000 port inside Docker container. Now since Splunk was running on 8000, this would make a better sense, but now that we changed it from 8000 to 8080, this field mapping will not work, and hence you will not see any data over here. But in case you are running it outside of Docker container within a server or a virtual machine, you should be able to see when you do on port 8080. So in short, when it comes to the precedence order, just important to remember is that this is the order in which things are followed. So first is Splunk will look into the system local directory, which is the highest priority. Then is the app local, then is app default, and fourth one is system default directory, which has the lowest priority. So how things typically work is that whenever Splunk starts and it looks for some global configuration, it will first look into this system local directory. Now, if it finds a specific configuration within the system local directory, it will consider it as the highest one, and that will be part of the running Splunk configuration process related values. Then if it does not find certain fields within the system local directory, then it will look into the app local directory whether that field is there or not. If it is not there, then it will look into the app defaults, and as a last resort, if a specific configuration is not present within app, then it will look into the system default directory and it will fetch the configurations from there. Now, there are certain important pointers for us to remember is that app directory names also affect the precedence. Now, we had already seen in the first slide is that you have default, then the system precedence goes to app, then it goes to local. Now, within app directory, it might happen that there can be a lot of applications which would be installed. Let me quickly show you that. So currently I am in opt Splunk etc apps. Now if you'll see over here, if I do LSL, there are a lot of directories which are present over here, and each directory will have its own default and local configuration. So if I open up any random one, let me look into Splunk TANIX. If you'll see within this also, you have its own, it has its own default directory and it can also have its own local directory. So each app has its own default and local directory. So in such cases, if you are putting certain configurations, because it might happen that you have two same configuration files with different value in two different apps. Now how will Splunk know which one to prioritize? So for such cases, understanding the app precedence is important. Now to determine the priority, because there can be multiple applications, Splunk basically uses lexicographical order. Now how it basically works is that files in an app directory, if it is of name A, will typically have a higher priority than files which are present in the directory called as B. So this is basically it comes from the lexicographical order. Now also one important part to remember is that All apps which are starting from uppercase letters will have precedence over any apps starting from the lowercase letter, same due to the lexicographical order. So for such, if A has a precedence over Z, but Z has a higher precedence over A, because Z is of uppercase letter and A is of lowercase letter. So this is one important part that you need to remember. So coming as for the summary of precedence order, you have Splunk Home etc system local, then you have Splunk Home etc apps, say A local, then you have Splunk Home etc app A default. So I think there is a little typo here, so you can just ignore this. So you have system local, you have app local, you have app default, and then you have the system default. So this is one important thing that you should remember, and it will help you throughout your practical sessions that you will be doing. So this is it for today's video. I hope this has been informative for you, and I look forward to see you in the next video.